Hey guys, in this video I'm going to explain about Oracle security, which is specifically auditing. Okay, so when it comes to Oracle security, auditing is one of the main feature which needs to be monitored and also which needs to be maintained in terms of performance and storage. Okay, so when we enable audit, it's not only about generating the audit files related to the sys or any other users, but also maintaining those audit files is one of the major tasks for the DBA. Okay, and also maintenance in the sense both in terms of performance and storage, right? So when it comes to audit record generation, right, so parallelly redo generation happens because of these audit records. Okay, why? Because Oracle internally does a lot of insert statements. Okay, so Oracle has internal tables like sys dot odd dollar. Okay, performance and storage. So enabling audit is just a simple task. Okay, but maintenance is very tedious, and especially in production databases. Okay, so this is the main table, or we can say this is a traditional table where Oracle stores all the audit records, and it does a lot of insert into odd dollar, right? So if you always remember, whenever there is any change, modification like DML, delete, update or insert, lot of redos will be generated, and also undo usage will be there, right? So beyond this, there will also be performance issues. So if there are if you have enabled auditing for every tasks like every DMLs, every DDLs, every sys logging, but by default I just wanted to let you know that by default Oracle does not have any option to disable the sys operations. So by default Oracle database logs all the sys operations in an audit file externally. Okay, so and that too in the audit trail location. So show parameter trail. Okay, so by default Oracle records all the sys operations in the audit. So we need to check the location, show parameter, dump. So there will be audit a dump. So yeah, audit file test. So this is the exact location where Oracle stores all the audit files with .odd extension. Okay, so always we need to make sure that this specific mount point has space to accommodate all the audit files, because as I already mentioned, even though we disable audit level for the sys operations, but still Oracle may generate minimum level of audit files. Okay, so we can just try disabling this option. Okay, but sometimes Oracle mandatorily needs certain operations to be logged, audited. Okay, so if lot of insert statements happen, right, so insert into sys.odd dollar happen, then there will be a performance impact, right? Because these are just internal operations, and these are not the priority for the database, priority for Oracle database. First priority would be application statements, application SQLs, right? Because Oracle database serves the application, right? So majority of the resources should be allocated to the application SQL and not the third party, or the third party in the sense not the background tasks, right? So obviously if there are a lot of if you have enabled audit for everything, right, like as I already mentioned, DDL, DML, logging, all logins. For every operation, if you enabled audit, then obviously there will be a huge flood of audit records which will be generated, and there will be a lot of inserts into sys.audit, so which further impacts the performance of the Oracle database. Okay, and also we need to store those audit files, right? So if sys.audit table increase, then sysocs table space or any other table space that where we are storing the audit records in the table will also grow. So the table space will also grow. So Oracle recommends to create a dedicated new table space, something like audit table space or something like that, for specifically for audit records. Why? Because if you use either system or sysocs table space for storing the audit records, these two table spaces already store a lot of other priority tables. Like in system table space, it contains all the bootstrap information, like all the internal dictionary information will be stored in system table space. But if you are just colliding the audit files with the system table space, then if space gets full in system table space, or if any corruption happens, or if you are doing any maintenance like purging the audit files, then system table space would have to be active, right? So during those purging of audit records, if any corruption or anything happens, then obviously the whole Oracle database itself will crash. And also sysocs table space is a performance table space, right? All the AWR records will be stored, all the OPStat. OPT stat means all the statistics related information will be stored in sysocs table space. All the histograms, likewise all the performance information, performance metric information related to Oracle database will be stored in sysocs table space, all the snapshot information. So if we are giving priority to the performance data in sysocs table space, and if you are still colliding the audit records, or you are there should be some dedicated table space. So if you are just combining everything in one table space, then if you are doing any maintenance operation for one specific table, then that may impact others. So if you are doing audit maintenance on the sysocs table space, then obviously sysocs table space is also not that easy to maintain, because sysocs table space maintenance is quite complex. So I will just keep a separate video for maintaining the sysocs table space, because the records which are stored all are related to performance, and you may need to reorg the sysocs table space, right? So otherwise the snapshot information, the performance information cannot be stored properly, and you will be paying license for all these the tuning pack, and if you are not able to store anything in sysocs table space, then it's waste of money, right? So that's the reason Oracle recommends to create a dedicated table space for audit. This is the first priority. Okay, and this is the reason. For Oracle database should give the first priority to the application SQL, not in monitoring and maintaining the audit records. So that's the reason you should be careful in choosing the right operations to be audited, right? So just because I have options to audit everything, I cannot audit everything. So if you just go and ask the security team or any other team who is auditing, they may say you just enable auditing for everything, but end of the day it may be a overhead for the DBA to maintain all these audit records, right? So you may need to pre-allocate the space, right? So you need to reserve space, you need to create the purging policy for the audit. So when how many days the audit can be retained, the retention should be decided. And also if huge DMLs and DDLs are happening at the same time, then a lot of audit records will be there. So if a lot of inserts happen during the same time, then Oracle database performance will be impacted, because this also consumes resource. So when you are running the application SQL will get impacted because of these huge flood of audits. Okay, so let me explain the type of audits to be simple. Okay, so first thing is standard audit. Okay, first is no audit. No audit means we don't audit anything, but by default sys level audits will be enabled. So this is recommended by Oracle to enable the sys level audit operations. Standard audit, then comes extended audit, then UGA, not UGA, it's UAT. Okay, unified audit trail, or you can say unified audit. And next one is FGA, fine grained audit. Okay, so to be simple, these are the major auditing options which we use for auditing the Oracle database. Okay, but choosing between these audits are quite very important. Okay, so I have just categorized all these audits into these different types, but there is no such thing as types in Oracle auditing. Okay, just for your understanding purpose, I have just classified and simplified these auditing options. Okay, so there is no such thing as standard auditing, but traditionally in earlier database versions before Oracle introduced unified auditing or FGA, what we used to do is we just enable the auditing, right? So this is the parameter audit trail, as I already shown you. So yeah, audit trail. So you have a lot of options to be chosen, like none, DB, DB extended, OS, XML, XML extended. Okay, so generally everyone use DB as the default audit trail value, because DB means that's the standard auditing. Okay, so if you enable DB extended, then that comes the second type, which is extended auditing. Okay, so the name itself can denote. Extended means it will further audit the additional columns and the virtual, the invisible columns and virtual columns. Okay, so this is the auditing framework. I mean, the standard auditing is the auditing framework which was introduced on Oracle 7, or we can say traditional auditing, and it stores the record in odd dollar table. So if you have sys access, you can just check sys.odd$. So this is just an internal table. You should not play around, or you should not do any delete or insert or any DML transactions. You should just select this for checking the information. So you have lot of information that you can use, like the user ID, user host, who has logged in, and what is the object, what is the return code, everything will be there. So if this table contains records, then that means standard auditing is enabled. Okay, so if this does not contains any record, then that means you may need to check for other options. So here I have just enabled audit trail for OS level. Okay, so if you enable, you should be careful in this. If you enable audit trail at DB level, then you will see records in sys.odd$. If you enabled audit trail at OS level, then you will not see any records in sys.odd$. Or all the previous older records may be there. It may not be purged. Okay, but if you want all the audit records to be flushed or dumped to the OS file, then always use OS. Right, so we cannot take the overhead of maintaining all these audits files in the database side. That will be an overhead for the database itself, right? So since the table space is also part of it is kind of one arm or one leg for the database, so you need to keep that table space intact with the database as well, right? So if one table space gets failed, then also you may get some error on the database level. So that may impact the other operations as well, right? So that's the reason always don't enable any tightly coupled auditing. But yeah, it depends on the individual's choice. Okay, so if you enable audit at the DB level, definitely you need to maintain the table space where you are storing the audit records. But if it is OS, there is no strings attached, right? So you just dump all those files. That's it. Oracle will not keep all those audit files within the database. And if you just enable DB extended, then this means the name itself say extended. Extended means, as I already mentioned, some additional operations will be logged or audited. and XML means it will the auditing will be happening in the XML format, but these two options are not recommended. Okay, unless until if there is any specific reason, we don't need to do this. So next comes the audit trail. Yeah, we need to enable the audit at the DB level. Okay, so now I just say scope SP file. So we need to restart the database whenever we are changing this parameter. That we need to remember. This is not a static. This is not a dynamic parameter which can be which cannot be modified in the memory. So we need to change it at the SP file and restart the database. So when I enable audit trail at DB level, I may get records in the sys.aud$. So we need to wait for some time. Okay, and then yeah, we can enable auditing policy. So we can create a lot of policies like audit session, audit create table. So this is what I mentioned, right? So whatever that is required, just enable audit for that particular operation. Don't enable auditing for everything, right? So if I need to audit only the session, I will just enable auditing only auditing for only the session. If I want to enable auditing for the create table, I will enable auditing for create table, and also it depends, right? So you can also enable for everything, but you may need to pay the price of storage and also performance, right? So the more feature that you enable, the more overhead that you need to accept. Okay, so yeah. So now I'm just going to execute some query. Okay, so let me just execute this burn SQL. Okay. Okay, still this table is not populated, that's fine. So I have just enabled auditing for session level, create table level, drop table level, insert table level, and everything. Okay, so sys.aud$ is the primary table where audit records will be temporarily stored. It will not be permanently stored in sys.aud$, but after that, where the actual results will be stored in the disk, which is DBA audit trail. Okay. So DBA audit trail is the actual DBA table where we need to check. So sys.aud$ is just a shadow table which is underlying to the DBA audit trail. DBA audit trail will be the main view. Okay. So currently we don't see any records. Let me just do create table. Okay, so even though I just created and inserted some records, but still I could not see. I think Unified audit record is also, audit trail is also enabled. Yeah, so unified audit trail is also enabled. So that's the reason Oracle is not storing all the values, the audit values in the sys.audit. So that also I need to mention. So if you enable unified audit records, then, so let me just explain first. So I already mentioned there are different types, right? Standard, extended, unified, and fine grained. So let me just give you an overview. So standard means, as I already mentioned, it's a traditional type where all the insert, update, or any DDL, everything will be audited. Okay, either on the DB or on the OS. Okay, but here there is a disadvantage, or we can not say it as disadvantage. It depends on the expectations of the DBA. So standard, what it does is it just stores every auditing separately. Okay, so it does not store all the audit into one specific central table. Okay, so when it comes to extended, as I already mentioned, it is similar to standard, but only there are some additional auditing that will be enabled, like virtual column and other columns, and also the bind variables and etc. All the SQL binds will be recorded. So I will just show you a chart which will help you in understanding. So next comes the unified audit trail. So unified audit trail, what it does is it collects every audit in one central table instead of collecting everything separately. So that's the major difference compared to standard, extended, and UAT, unified audit trail. Okay, so here what it does is, in UAT, Oracle does not directly flush all the audits to the disk. It flush all the audits in a batch job from the buffer. Okay, it just temporarily store all the audits in the buffer, in the memory, and then at periodic intervals, when there is less resource usage, all the audit records will be periodically flushed, similar to how DBWR work, right? So DBWR is a lazy writer which writes all the dirty buffers to the data file in a lazy manner. It does not work like log writer, where log writer just flushes everything immediately because it is needed for recovery. So similarly, this is UAT is similar to DBWR. So this is quite smart compared to standard and extended audit, where during standard and extended audit, it will just flush all the audits immediately. It's not a batch manner, but it will just flush all the individual records whenever audits are generated. But here, collective set of audit will be, audit files will be, audit blocks or audit data will be generated, and it will be flushed to the audit in a batch manner. And here, if you see, this is the parameter, unified audit SGA queue size, right? So it will just queue all the audits in the SGA, and then periodically it will batch flush the data. Okay, and you may need to set this value as well to store the audit queues in the audit buffer. Okay, and next comes the FGA, fine grained audit. Fine grained audit is kind of a single audit with deeper auditing capability, which means, so if I need to audit a specific table and for a specific row level or specific query level, right? So if you see all the previous auditing features, they don't support a deeper level of auditing, but here if I need to say, for example, I just need to audit select salary from employee where salary greater than 1000, something like this. So here I just need to audit only the salary column and only for specific queries or specific row level. I can enable FGA, fine grain. Fine grain means it is a core or very deeper level. Okay, so that's the major difference between all these audits. Okay, so we just need to understand, right? So standard audits will be stored under sys.aud$. Okay, and extended audit also will be stored in sys.aud$. These are the internal tables, and the external or the outer table, right? So these are the internal tables, and the querying view will be DBA audit trail. So unified audit trail will be stored in sys.aud. So there is another view. So let me just go to the Excel file. aud$unified. So there is a separate view for unified audit trail. Okay, and as I already mentioned, every auditing will be stored in sys.aud$unified in a combined manner, centralized table. But for extended and standard, only it will I mean the auditing will be stored. It will not be stored in a batch manner, or it just flush all the records individually, like a log writer. But UAT stores all the audit records similar to DBWR. So you can take an example like that. So UAT will be good for performance. If you are bothered about the Oracle database performance when you are enabling auditing, then you can go for UAT. But UAT will consume more storage. But standard and extended will not consume more storage. It consumes less storage, but it also depends on the frequency of audit that are generated, right? So even we cannot predict when we enable standard or extended, if there are millions of audit files which are generating, then that is also a problem. But comparatively, if you go for extended or UAT, then UAT will generate more audit records compared to standard and extended, because it is collecting everything in one centralized area. But it is good for performance because it does not interfere with the application sequels, because it knows when to flush the audit records. And FGA is not good for both performance and storage, because as you already know that it is a very deeper level. For anything that is that needs a very deeper or root level requires a lot of resource and also a lot of space, because you are dumping lot of internal or very core level data, right? So here when it comes to FGA, both will be impacted. Okay, so now I also enabled unified auditing. So if I just see aud$unified, okay, so I think I have given the wrong schema. It's not sys.aud$unified, it is aud_sys. And I also need to mention this as well, because Oracle Unified Auditing will be stored in a separate schema. Okay, that is also a separate abstract layer in Unified Auditing. But if you see for the standard and extended auditing, it uses sys schema, right? So here there is also another isolation, so that it will be easier for the DBA to manage, right? So aud_sys will further separate and it will make the maintenance easy. Okay, So yeah, if you see, there are a lot of records here. So I need to disable unified auditing so that the standard auditing will be used. So we'll get records under sys.auth. Okay, so yeah, these are the events that can be captured: logins, privilege usage, DDL, DML in a standard auditing. And yeah, you can just execute a simple query if you want to understand the username action. A lot of columns are there, so you can just go and explore those things. Okay, and next comes extended auditing. As I already mentioned, this audits the extra information like SQL text and SQL bind variables. Okay, and yeah, you can use the same DBA audit trail. So this is just an extended version of standard audit, that's it. But comparatively it will generate more redo and more sysocs usage and more IO, because you are further increasing additional information like SQL text, SQL bind and other virtual columns and everything. Okay, so 20 to 40% more redo compared to standard auditing. But if you have a very huge database with huge storage and huge memory, then this is nothing. Okay, but you may need to test it, right? So how many audit records are generating, and you may need to decide the purging policy, or you may need to directly set it at the OS level so that you can you don't need to bother about the database side, but you may need to maintain the space at the OS level. You may need to copy those audit to some other temporary storage or once the auditing is completed, you can delete those audit files. Next comes the unified auditing. So it was introduced in Oracle 12c. Okay, so yeah, it replaces the multiple old mechanisms. So what is the major difference? So unified auditing merges everything, that's it. So it merges standard auditing, FGA means fine grained auditing, so deeper level. So you can also enable FGA inside unified auditing, or you can enable only FGA separately. Okay, Hormone auditing, data pump auditing, data vault auditing, label security auditing, everything will be in a single repository. And this is the table I already shown you. So this is how we can create a policy. So you need to create a policy with the actions that you need to audit. Okay, and yeah, this is the query that you can check to understand. Okay, and yeah, this is the table. Auth unified is the table where you will be able to see all the audit records which were audited. And FGA was already introduced in Oracle 9i. Okay, so it was a pretty old auditing feature. So yeah, it is column based and condition based auditing. So it is a very deeper level auditing. So if I need to only select the salary, audit only the salary column for a particular table, I can specify everything inside the policy. So end of the day, if you want to enable something, it's all about you need to so for fine grained auditing, you can use this view, DBA FGA audit trail. So this view is separate to FGA. So when you are enabling only FGA auditing, you need to check only this view. Okay, so yeah, you may need to add the policy. As I already mentioned, when it comes to auditing, yeah, you need to first enable auditing. You may need to choose which auditing feature that you are going to select. Then you may need to enable it with the help of parameters. Then after that, you may need to choose the location where the audit records should be stored, either on the database or on the OS level. Then if it is database, then you need to create a separate table space. Okay, you should not be using system or sysocs table space. Okay, if it is OS level, you may need to choose the right mount point and also the storage. You may need to maintain the storage. Okay, so yeah, so again, when you are choosing the audit, you may need to focus on the performance aspect compared to your database. That is suitable to your database, and also the storage aspects, right? So how frequent the audits will be generated, so how frequent you need to purge, so those things and all you may need to decide. For when it comes to storage, you may need to select the retention and the purging policy. When it comes to performance, you need to check what can be essential, right? So if I enable everything, then definitely there will be a performance overhead. So I just need to enable only the essential auditing features. So these things needs to be kept into the considerations. Okay, and also what is the actual requirement from the auditing, that also you may need to check with the auditing team, right? So some people may ask it depends on the sector or industry, like if it is a banking industry, that may be completely financial, right? So it also depends on the application, and also the if it is a healthcare, then that is quite very sensitive information, like public personal health information, right? So those things are very sensitive, and that should be handled in a separate way, right? So these are the things that you may need to keep into consideration when you are enabling auditing. Okay, so yeah, so this is column based and condition based FGA, and these are the comparisons. Okay, so you can decide which audit is required for you based on these options available, right? So SQL text captured, standard audit it will not be, and extended yes, and others are yes. So bind variables will not be captured in standard, only in extended bind variables will be captured. And yeah, if you enable standard, then most of the options are unavailable, only few things will be captured. Okay, so and when it comes to extended, these conditional and column auditing will not be there. So when it comes to unified, everything will be captured, but you need to have a trade-off with the storage. Okay, so performance overhead will be lower comparatively to standard, extended or FGA. So when it comes to FGA, it comes a medium storage and also medium performance impact. Okay, so you can just do a test on your system, on your QA or development system, and just see how it behaves. Okay, so this is just a sample test on a test database that was created, and if you see, you can see this graph, right? So performance overhead for it is too high for standard and extended. So first two are standard and extended, the blue one is standard and orange one is extended. And if you see for unified, it is quite performance overhead is less, and for FGA is also high because of the fine grained and deeper level granular level auditing, and which is Oracle recommended, unified and FGA. Okay, so FGA is just a single auditing, so but at a deeper level. So you can take any example, like so you can take a release, okay, Oracle patch release. So if there is a release which is released by Oracle, this release contains everything, like optimizer fixes, okay, set of security fixes, and individual bug fixes. Likewise, it combines everything. So this release will be similar to unified auditing, because unified auditing almost audits everything. So when it comes to one-off patch, so one-off patch means it is a single bug fix for a specific customer. Okay, so not all the customers may get the same bug, right? So sometimes the based on the customer's configuration and application behavior, he only customer only may have faced that bug. So Oracle has to create an individual bug fix for that customer. So likewise, that this is similar to FGA. So it is kind of an individual bug fix, right? So Oracle recommends to use unified auditing to be simple. That's it. FGA is not auditing itself, right? So FGA is just a deeper level auditing, and you need to check the purging frequency. So purging frequency is high for unified and FGA because of the frequency of audit records that are generated. And if you see, rest of them are yes or no, like what are the features, audit features available, right? And yeah, so these are the different tests that were conducted. And this may vary for different databases and the frequency of the auditing, I mean the frequency of the database workload, right? So I cannot say that the workload will be same every time. So sometimes the database will be at a peaker level, peak hours, sometimes it may not be at the peak level. So we cannot completely test the behavior of it. So just create a baseline of your database, then just you can just generate a load and just test it on your test database. Okay.